For many years, climate change, poverty, war, and oppression have slowly been ruining the world. However, what finally brings humanity down is a mysterious attack on all major cities that destroys the power grids. As darkness takes over, humans begin to die in great numbers. Scientists call this event the break. At first, men go out to fight and give it their all, no matter how badly they bleed. Unfortunately, they lose, so now the women have to pick up the sword and keep on fighting. In the middle of the night, Mary guides a group of soldiers to launch an attack. Flares illuminate the area and a screeching sound can be heard in the distance. Everyone gets into position as they let out a battle cry. Suddenly, some huge terrifying monsters known as breakers appear and the team charges ahead to fight for their lives. 15 years after the first breaker attack, Mary's husband John is teaching their daughter Willa about the break. It turns out that the breakers have always been on Earth, hiding behind something called the Stitch. When humanity melted the ice and destroyed the forests, the Stitch opened up and all the breakers came out. Willa is tired of studying the boring details and keeps interrupting John until he tells her the story of Kodiak, a warrior who took out 100 breakers with just one swipe of his axe. Mary tells Willa stories too, mainly describing the beautiful flowers and animals that Willa never got to see. Later, their building starts shaking and military trucks arrive to announce it's time to evacuate. Meanwhile, Mary and John are celebrating Willa's birthday. She gets a nice cake and 2 presents, a hat that her mother knitted, and a dog plushie made by a neighbor who donates his proceeds to veterans. They're suddenly interrupted by a soldier pounding on their door, saying it's time to go. While Willa packs up her things, John tries to do the same, but his old injuries make it hard for him to move. Mary helps him and they discuss the situation. Some time ago, Mary and her team closed up the Stitch, yet the breakers keep coming. Mary theorizes that closing a Stitch just makes another one open. They check on each other's scars and exchange loving words before kissing while Willa watches them in tears. When the power goes out, Willa runs to hug her parents in fear. Afterward, Mary joins her fellow soldiers while John and Willa have to ride with the civilians. A soldier sees John's scars and is worried that he may have been infected during the war, but he promises that if he ever shows even one small symptom, he'll self-delete. Nearby, the breakers are already attacking and causing many explosions. During the trip, the soldiers tell the civilians how awful the breakers' infection is and how it transforms the human body. This is why infected people are known as hybrids. A horrified Willa changes the subject to the legend of Kodiak, and each person has heard different details about the story. Some think he killed 300 breakers, others believe he had a pet bear helping him. Willa wonders what version is true and John assures her that what matters is the message. Then she falls asleep. Moments later, Willa is woken up by the sound of gunshots and screaming. John tells her to stay silent and all the civilians can only look at each other in horror as they hear the soldiers fighting and the monsters roaring. The woman guarding them tells them to stay in the trunk and jumps out to join the battle. Soon a breaker approaches the truck and everyone thinks it's over for them, but the creature keeps moving without checking the vehicle. Suddenly a huge claw pierces the truck and stabs a woman before pulling her out. The group immediately leaves the truck to look for a safer hiding spot. John and Willa are blocked by a breaker, so a soldier cuts into open fire. She gets captured by a second monster, but at least the first breaker is distracted and John uses the opening to make Will drop to the ground. They crawl under a truck and keep hearing the death and destruction happening around them. When a breaker starts shaking the truck, the duo has to run and luckily they find another truck to hide under together with a mother and her child. Suddenly a breaker reaches in to capture the kid by the leg and the mother rushes out, desperate to save her loved one. As Willa cries, a breaker tries looking under the truck, only to step back when a soldier opens fire. There's some struggle between them and the soldier wins the fight by decapitating the monster with her sword. After kicking the head away, the soldier checks on the duo and reveals she's Mary. She tells them to come out and Willa is horrified to see the breaker's body squirming on the ground. Mary orders her team to get everyone off the road and take them to the forest since it's safer there. As they move, Willa sees many human bodies and people with severe wounds. An old man has been infected and a soldier promises to stay with him until it's over. In just a few minutes, the man's eyes start bleeding and his veins turn black, so the soldier shoots him. When the group reaches the forest, John worries because he notices some blood on Mary's face, but it's just human blood so she's fine. At that moment they hear more monster noises. Mary tells Willa that she needs to stay and fight so the family should continue moving without her. Willa cries explaining she needs her too, but Mary tells all the civilians to move and John has to drag Willa away by force. The soldiers regroup and rush ahead for another battle. In the morning, John and Willa make it to the shore and John reveals a boat that he and Mary used to take out for fishing trips. They can still hear the breakers and the screaming in the forest, so Willa thinks they should bring a few civilians with them. However, John refuses, claiming that the boat is too small. At that moment a man named Kevin approaches them and asks if the boat is theirs. John says it isn't and that they're just looking for food. Kevin then pulls out a gun and calls John out for his lie, asking him to save him too. John explains that the boat has no gas and he needs to retrieve it from a car, so Kevin agrees to take him there. After telling Willa to wait by the boat, John walks to the abandoned car on the road while Kevin keeps the gun pointed at him. John pretends to reach into his pocket for his keys and takes out a knife instead. At the shore, Willa is getting more and more scared because her father is taking too long and she keeps hearing the monsters. Thankfully John comes back and tells her that Kevin ran away, so they leave on the boat by themselves. After a few hours of sailing they make it to an island in the middle of the sea. A year later, the duo is still living on the island. Willa sits on top of a hill and watches the explosions caused by battles on the mainland. When she sees a bird fly by, she carefully climbs down the cliff and takes some eggs from a nest, making sure to leave at least one behind. Afterward she goes home, where John is chopping wood. He worries when he hears there were no animals in the traps because Willa needs protein. She shows him the eggs and he scolds her for taking unnecessary risks. Willa wants to prove she's as tough as he is and says she should be allowed to chop wood too. In fact, she thinks she can handle an axe as well as Kodiak. An amused John dares her to show him the result of all her training, so Willa attacks him with her wooden sword. It's easy for John to block her every single time and he ends the fight by pushing her away, saying she needs more training. When he turns around Willa tries to attack him by surprise, but he blocks her again and her sword breaks. That night before dinner, Willa asks for another story. John tells her about Kodiak gathering the perfect materials to make a powerful axe and how he was the first person to see the stitch cracking on the ground. A breaker crawled out of the cracks but Kodiak wasn't scared. In fact, he quickly killed it with his new axe. Thanks to Kodiak's experience, humanity learned how to kill these monsters. Willa wonders if Kodiak is actually her father, but John mocks the idea and asks her to take the story seriously because they bring hope. He thinks that one day the world will be at peace and they'll finally return to the mainland. Sometime later the duo goes to the beach to bury some mines. Using binoculars, they watch the breakers on the mainland and John explains that these creatures don't have eyes. He believes that they use hybrids as their eyes and ears. Willa wonders what humanity did to be attacked like this, so John theorizes that the breakers saw humans as invaders of their home. Afterward Willa continues with her training by going through an obstacle course that John built with wood. He keeps asking her questions about the right ways to fight breakers as she moves. He also puts her on edge by describing the way the monsters are coming for her. Willa slips a few times but never gives up and reaches her wooden sword. She starts attacking the bags that represent the monsters while repeating her lessons. Breakers must be killed by decapitation, but that's not enough for hybrids, who need to get their brains smashed. She slips again during her last attack and sadly doesn't finish the course in time, but John says she did pretty good. Still determined to keep on training, Willa starts going through the course once more. Later while working in the garden, John is shocked to find wild strawberries. He immediately takes them to Willa, who never saw this fruit before. She tries one and loves the taste. John tells her about his and Mary's wedding cake, which had strawberries and cream. One morning, Willa is filling her bottles at a waterfall when she suddenly sees a person on the beach. She's about to grab her sword, only to notice it's a young girl. Willa yells to get her attention and the girl begins running toward her. At that moment Willa remembers the mines and runs ahead to stop the girl right before she steps on the trap. They're both terrified but they carefully move away and the crying girl hugs Willa in relief. Afterward Willa takes the girl to a secret cave where she keeps some stuff for when she needs to be away from her dad for a while. She shares the water with her and learns her name is Rosie. When Willa notices that her forehead is bleeding, Rosie explains that she hit her head on the boat. She and her family were sailing to her grandmother's house on the coast, but the breakers attacked them and only Rosie survived. Willa shares some food too and says she must leave, but a terrified Rosie convinces her to stay a little longer. While walking through the woods, Willa hears a noise behind her and is shocked to find her mother. Mary hugs her tightly before she drags her away, saying that they must leave John for now and Willa must join the fight. Suddenly Mary's eyes start bleeding and Willa screams, only to wake up in the cave. Rosie is still asleep, so Willa leaves her the plushie and runs back to her house. When Willa bursts in, John pulls out a gun thinking he's being attacked. He quickly puts it away when he sees Willa and expresses how worried he was since she's been gone all day. Willa apologizes but doesn't tell him about Rosie. She realizes that the gun is Kevin's and John explains he had no choice but to leave him behind. When she asks if all men are bad, John says that they aren't. Women can become hybrids too, it's just less likely. Then Willa asks her father if he would kill a normal person, and John admits he would if they threatened Willa or Mary in any way. That night, Willa waits until John is asleep to steal some food and take it to Rosie, who asks lots of questions. Willa explains she doesn't live in the cave, but she also pretends she's alone on the island. Then she shows Rosie a book about how the world looked before the war and there are some animals that the girls don't recognize. Rosie cries because she misses her family and Willa mentions Kodiak to distract her. However, Rosie thinks Kodiak is dead, otherwise he would be out there winning battles. Willa points out that heroes need help too and starts telling her a story of Kodiak gathering a team to win a vicious fight. When one of the soldiers started to transform into a terrifying monster, the team learned about hybrids. Bullets did nothing, so Kodiak killed it with his axe. Thanks to him, humans now know that hybrids must get their brains smashed. Willa truly believes that Kodiak is out there fighting and one day humans will win the war. It's time for her to leave, so she tells Rosie to wait here and gifts her the birthday hat. The next day the training continues. Willa makes it through the course without problems and spars with John, who pretends to be a hybrid enemy. They run around and Willa hides behind a tree, hoping to take him by surprise. Suddenly John stops talking and Willa hears a weird noise. She peeks out to discover that John has collapsed. She rushes to his side and gives him some water to wake him up. Afterward she helps him walk home and Willa finally realizes that John hasn't been eating so she could eat. He insists they must ration the food until Mary comes for them, but Willa feels trapped and wants to help the other women fight instead of doing nothing. John snaps, reminding her that he fought for 5 years and Mary is still out there, so they can't call that nothing. To prove that he trusts his daughter, John gives Willa his old sword. The following day Willa pretends she's going out to check the traps but she actually returns to the cave. Rosie is nowhere to be found and Willa's things have been destroyed. Suddenly someone moves in the dark and Willa follows the figure until she confirms it's Rosie, who has transformed into a terrifying hybrid. This hybrid begins chasing a screaming Willa, who slips on the water and falls. Now the hybrid can jump on her, but when it's about to kill her, John shows up and opens fire. The bullets do no damage, so John grabs his sword and starts fighting the monster. After some struggle, he manages to stab the hybrid's head to kill it. Willa runs to reunite with her father and has a breakdown, so John comforts her quickly and announces they must leave because the hybrid must have already sent a signal to the breakers. The duo gathers their things and starts making their way to the other side of the island where they hid the boat. They stop in the forest to rest for a few minutes and Willa asks for a story from before the war. John tells her that back then there were already rumors of some villages being attacked, but nobody cared. People in the city were happy and John and Mary were enjoying their new marriage, especially when Mary got pregnant. At that moment they hear some explosions in the distance, meaning the breakers have arrived. The duo runs as fast as they can, but they must slow down when they reach a fissure on the ground. Willa carefully walks on a tree to reach the other side, but when John is about to follow her, Rosie's brother appears as a hybrid and attacks him. John tells Willa to stay back, however she crosses the fissure again and pulls the hybrid away from her father. Then she uses the sword to decapitate the creature, yet the body keeps on moving and attacks again. It pushes Willa back on the tree over the fissure and she doesn't know how long she'll be able to hold on. Luckily John steps on the hybrid's head to mush it up and the body immediately falls off. Afterward both Willa and John cross the fissure and make it safely to the other side. While walking through another forest, John collapses. At that moment they see the hybrid of Rosie's father coming and Willa wants her dad to run with her, but John is too weak to move. Willa pulls out her sword and concentrates on her training. When the hybrid tries to attack her, she dodges it and slices the top of its head off, causing the brain to fall out. Now she can help John walk. Moments later on the beach, John tells Willa to leave alone on the boat and reveals that the hybrid has infected him. Willa has another breakdown, so John tells her a few encouraging words, reminding her she's a warrior like her mother. Then Willa cuts the rope, but the boat doesn't slide off on its own, so she has to make an extra effort to push it. She manages to make it go down a little, but she isn't strong enough to make it reach the water. As John's eyes start to bleed, Willa decides to pull out her sword and fight too. At the same time, Mary and her soldiers finally arrive on their boats. The breakers are coming down the hills, so the whole family gets their weapons ready for the final battle. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.